to frame it, you're doing this race. First of all, you learned to swim in 2005. It's 2020, and you've done 18 Ironmans since then. So let's just say that, and you hadn't done any like Ironman triathlons at that point either. So that's more than one a year. You've been doing a lot, and that's a lot more than most people are up to. Alongside you is a guy who you coached who did 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 straight days.
I know.
Let's just say you're not wired like normal people. So I'm curious to know, from a toughness standpoint, you can't prepare for sleep deprivation, but were there other people in this race that were tougher than you? What did you learn about yourself in that process?
Okay, I'll tell you a great toughness story. Jeez, yes. I mean, there sure were. I think the one cool thing is that Amazon curated 330 of the most badass athletes I've ever seen in my entire life. I think we had like 11 people that had summited Everest, people who'd run across country. I mean, this group of athletes that had amassed and really so few mega egos. It was pretty cool. Because I think when people get to that point, they kind of have gotten over the other side of like doing it for achievement. And they're super cool souls. So day 5 of the race, we're trekking through the jungle, climbing up this river. There's like slippery rocks everywhere. I step on a rock, a move I had done, 4,000 times up to this point in the race. My foot goes one way, my knee goes the other. I tear a ligament in my knee. Ooh. I've never torn a ligament anywhere. I mean, my body is made for war, and I've never been injured really in my life, but I'm like, oh, that is not a good sound or feeling. Something just happened. And we had like 30 miles to trek. We're in the middle of a 30-mile trek. So as we keep trekking through the jungle, I'm like, oh, this is like, I think it's okay. And then a little bit later, oh, it's not super okay. And by the time I get done with the trek, I'm like kind of barely walking on this thing, but I got my hiking poles. So I'm making my way, and we pull into a camp, and I'm like, is this it? Are we done? Like, is my knee done? And I go to the medical, and they do some tests. And I'm like, hey, it's not your MCL. It's not your ACL. It's like a side ligament. And I don't know which one, but go sleep for 5 hours. Wake up in the morning. We'll tape it up. We'll give you a whole bunch of drugs, Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever. And we'll see how it goes. So I take some drugs. I go get some sleep. Wake up in the morning, and Team Sundance rolls in, comes over to talk. And Sylvia on Team Sundance had crashed her bike, tore her ACL, her MCL. Her knee is like 4 times the size of a normal knee. She's got it taped and wrapped. They're packed up, and she's heading out. And I literally at that point was like, my knee wasn't even swollen to double the size, and I just tore one tiny side ligament in my knee. At that point I was like, I really had this moment of like, you are such a wimp. Like, get up and let's go. Like, people are doing way worse with, way more horrible injuries. And she finished. She like limped her way through another 5 days of racing.
That's such a high concentration of that type of people in the world that maybe ever existed.
There was one guy in the show who had hypothermia. There was one guy who had heat stroke. Who I mean, both these people are like, they couldn't do anything once they got it. And then next thing you know, they continued. I'm like, what?
Yeah. The cool thing about the race is, for those experienced teams, both Team Bend, who had the heat stroke situation, Team Summit, who had the hypothermia, is they are willing to carry a team member as long as they need to.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, they will not quit. And so with Dan, he went down on day 1, and he was out of commission for 72 hours. And they put him in the boat, and they paddled the boat without him paddling, and they put him on his bike, and they put a tow rope on him, and they towed him while he did 0 watts. I mean, they're so committed to finishing these races that if they've got a person down, they will just tow him through the race.